In 1967, the peaceful island of Cirken in southern Sweden was rocked by the macabre disappearance and unexplained death of 13-year-old Alvar Larsson. In April of that year, Alvar left the kitchen of the farm where he lived with his family to collect firewood from the woodshed. Sadly, this would be the last confirmed sighting of Alvar until 15 years later when a skull was discovered, raising more questions than answers about what really happened to Alvar. Alvar Larsson was born in 1953 and lived on the island Cirken, located in the Lake Asnen, in southern Sweden. He lived on a farm surrounded by woods with his parents and two brothers, aged 5 and 14. The nature of Cirken is mostly thick forest, and the island is connected to the mainland with a bridge. The island is sparsely populated, the closest neighbors lived half a kilometer away, and the Larssons together lived an idyllic life close to nature. Like most Swedish children of his age, Alvar was undergoing the process of confirmation in the church and attended weekly church services. He was known to be a smart, level-headed boy who would usually back down in disagreements with his older brother. Despite his calm demeanor, he was described as a pretty normal 13-year-old boy. On the evening of April 15, 1967, the Larsson family attends a party at a family friend's house. Everyone is present except for Alvar, who is not in the mood for the party and decides to stay home to read a book. When the family returns home, Alvar has already gone to bed. The morning of April 16, 1967, arrives, and Alvar's mother enters his room with a plate of cinnamon buns and a glass of juice. She places the tray in his room as he is still sleeping, then leaves. Shortly after, Alvar awakens, finishes his breakfast, and gets dressed in a flower-patterned shirt and jeans. He has to attend church that morning, and his suit is neatly hung on a clothing hanger in his room. Around 8 a.m., Alvar, who is reportedly in a bad mood, enters the kitchen where his mother is preparing for church. His father and younger brother are working in the barn at the time. Alvar's mother, feeling a little stressed and needing to get everyone ready, asks him to collect some firewood from the woodshed. Alvar doesn't respond verbally but takes a basket and heads outside in frustration. Despite the chilly weather with temperatures just above freezing, Alvar goes outside dressed lightly. Tragically, this would be the last time anyone saw him alive. As time passes, and Alvar fails to return from the woodshed, the rest of the family begins to worry. They wonder when he will return with the firewood, but Alvar never does. The family, now increasingly concerned about being late for church, starts searching the farm and the surrounding areas. They even enlist the help of their neighbors, who scour their own land. A basket is found just outside the woodshed, but there is no sign of Alvar. It's as if he vanished into thin air. At 2 p.m., Alvar's father contacts the police, and an extensive search operation is launched. The police conduct a thorough search of the entire island, with neighboring islands and bodies of water also being scoured for any signs of the missing boy. Over the next few weeks, the search effort expands to include military personnel, search dogs, and a total of 150 people, but there is no trace of Alvar to be found. In November 1982, 3 men are on a hunting expedition for fox on the small, uninhabited island of Lilla Klasen located east of Cirken when they stumble upon a shocking find. Placed on a pile of fresh autumn leaves, they discover a human skull. The skull had clearly been exposed to nature for a long time, as it had a layer of moss covering it. What was even more disturbing was the presence of a large hole in the back of the skull, indicating a severe blow to the head at some point. After comparing the teeth, the skull is identified as belonging to Alvar Larsson. It's impossible to determine whether the hole in the skull occurred before or after death. However, the question of how the skull ended up on the uninhabited island of Lilla Klasen, a couple of kilometers away from where Alvar was last seen and with no direct road access, remains a mystery. There are numerous theories regarding the case of Alvar Larsson, and here are the most common ones. Theory 1. Suicide or voluntarily disappearance. It's been reported that Alvar was in a foul mood on the morning of his disappearance, and it's possible that his frustration increased and his mother asked him to fetch wood. It's possible that he was generally unhappy with his life, and a minor incident may have caused him to want to run away, whether for a short time or permanently. His decision to stay home from the party the previous night could indicate that he was experiencing depression and preferred to stay in bed. Some theories suggest that he may have taken the family's boat or another boat and headed out onto the lake, while others speculate that he may have run off into the woods and either drowned or died from exposure due to injury. The boat theory has its own issues, especially given that Alvar was afraid of water and couldn't swim. Moreover, there are no reports of any boats found adrift on the lake that could support such a theory. Some have also speculated that he might have hitchhiked away from the farm, but given that his skull was found relatively close by, it seems unlikely that he could have gone very far. Theory 2. Family drama. Some have theorized that the disappearance and death of Alvar may have been the result of a family drama. Perhaps he got into an argument with his older brother, and things turned violent, ultimately resulting in Alvar's death. Given that he was described as being weaker than his brother, this theory has some plausibility. Others have suggested that the father may have been responsible, and the family then covered up the death. Some even speculate that Alvar may have already been dead on the evening before his disappearance was reported to the police, which could explain why he didn't attend the party that night. It's unclear where the older brother was at the time of the disappearance, but Alvar's father and younger brother were in the barn, while his mother was in the kitchen. There are no reports of anyone in the family having a history of aggressiveness, and there are no indications of any abnormal family dynamics. Additionally, it's difficult to imagine how the entire family could have kept quiet about such a traumatic event, particularly given that Alvar's disappearance was widely publicized and heavily searched for at the time. Theory 3. Murder. Some have speculated that Alvar may have fallen victim to a murderer. There are reports of a neighbor on the island who was known to be aggressive and express themselves in a concerning manner toward others, but there is no concrete evidence to support this theory. In 1978, a grave was opened in Scania, southern Sweden, after someone made a deathbed confession about the murder of a 10-year-old boy in the 1960s. There was some suspicion that this could be connected to Alvar Larsson's disappearance, and the grave was opened, but nothing was found inside. The murder was also confessed to by the Swedish serial confessor Thomas Quick, who made over 30 confessions to murders without any witnesses or concrete proof. However, Quick later recanted his confession, adding further uncertainty to the already mysterious case. Quick is himself an intriguing figure, and his confessions have been a topic of controversy and scrutiny for many years. One challenge with the murder theory is that the area where Alvar disappeared was sparsely populated, with few cars coming and going at the time. A car passing by would have drawn a lot of attention, and it seems unlikely that someone could have murdered Alvar and moved his body without being noticed. While this theory is not impossible, it does seem far-fetched given the circumstances. Alvar Larsson's disappearance and death is one of the most well-known cases in Sweden and received widespread media coverage at the time. It continues to be discussed extensively on Swedish internet forums and blogs, often leaving readers confused due to the various theories and lack of concrete evidence. To this day, the rest of Alvar's body has never been found. What happened to Alvar Larsson when he left to gather firewood that morning? Did he accidentally fall and suffer a fatal injury, or was he the victim of foul play? Was he killed in a family drama, or did he run away from home? How did his skull end up on another island several kilometers away from where he was last seen? Who moved the skull to the pile of fresh autumn leaves where it was found? These questions remain unanswered, leaving the mystery of Alvar Larsson's disappearance and death unresolved.